This article deals with the history of the current 1st Infantry Regiment of the United States Army. For the history of an earlier 1st Infantry Regiment, see 3rd U.S. Infantry. The 1st Infantry Regiment is a regiment of the United States Army that draws its lineage from a line of post-American Revolutionary War units and is credited with 39 campaign streamers. The 1st Battalion, 1st Infantry, is assigned as support to the United States Military Academy at West Point, New York, and to furnish the enlisted garrison for the Academy and the Stewart Army Subpost.2nd Battalion. 1st Infantry is an infantry component serving with the 2nd Stryker Brigade, 2nd Infantry Division at Joint Base Lewis-McChord, Washington. Origins. On 3 March 1791, Congress added to the Army the 2nd Regiment of Infantry, of which today's 1st Infantry draws its heritage. In September of that year, elements of it and the original 1st Infantry Regiment, with sizable militia complements, all under command of General Arthur St. Clair, were sent against the Miami Indians. St. Clair served as a major general in the Revolutionary Army and was now appointed General-in-Chief, superseding the first commander of the regiment, Josiah Hamer. Fighting against the Miamis, St. Clair's soldiers were untrained, ill-equipped, underfed, and sickly. This resulted in a disastrous defeat at the Battle of the Wabash, in which the entire U.S. Army suffered a loss in killed and wounded of nearly 900 out of a total strength of 1,400. Legion of the United States. In 1792, Congress created the Legion of the United States, which was a combined arms force of infantry, cavalry, and artillery under the command of Major General Anthony Wayne. M.G. Wayne had become a hero of the Revolutionary War when he led a small force against a larger British force to regain control of Stony Point, a crucial point on the Hudson River just south of West Point, New York. This legion, in which the 2nd Infantry became the infantry of the 2nd Sublegion, finally decisively defeated the Northwest Indian Confederacy and its British support at Fallen Timbers in the Old Northwest on 20 August 1794. War of 1812. In the War of 1812, the 2nd Infantry Regiment, as well as the 7th and 44th Infantry Regiments, fought in the Southern Theater to include the Battle of New Orleans with General Andrew Jackson. First Indian War period. The 2nd Infantry was consolidated May to October 1815 with the 3rd and 7th Infantry and 44th Infantry to form the 1st Infantry Regiment. In the ensuing years, the regiment was primarily concerned with Indian conflicts, and the 1st was involved in the Black Hawk War of 1832 and the 2nd Seminole War from 1839 to 1842. During this time, the regiment was commanded by many, now famous commanders, including Colonel Zachary Taylor, who would later become the 12th President of the United States, and 2nd Lieutenant Jefferson Davis, who would become the President of the Confederate States in the American Civil War. War with Mexico. When war broke out with Mexico in 1846, the 1st Infantry Regiment was sent across the border with General Zachary Taylor's army and participated in the storming of Monterrey, where the regiment fought house to house in savage hand-to-hand combat. From Monterrey, the regiment was transferred to General Winfield Scott's command and participated in the first modern amphibious landing in American history at Veracruz in 1847. Second Indian War period. Following the Mexican-American War, the regiment campaigned in the Texas area against the Comanches until the outbreak of the Civil War in 1861. Civil War. After escaping from rebel forces in Texas, the regiment returned to the Midwest and fought in the Mississippi area of operations. The regiment fought in one of the first battles of the Civil War at Wilson's Creek, Missouri, in August 1861. The 1st Infantry then campaigned with General Grant against Vicksburg in 1863. The end of the war found the regiment occupying New Orleans, Louisiana. 3rd Indian War period. After the Civil War, the regiment was sent west to fight the Indians once again. The 1st Infantry was consolidated in April 1869 with the 43d Infantry Regiment, Veteran Reserve Corps and consolidated unit designated as the 1st Infantry Regiment. 1st Infantry Regiment campaigned against the Sioux in the 1870s and 1890s and against the Apache, led by Geronimo, from 1882 to 1886. One member of the regiment was awarded the Medal of Honor for service during this period, 1st Lt. Marion P. Mouse, the 11th of January 1886, Sierra Madre Mountains, Mexico. California labor disputes. After the end of the Indian Wars, the regiment was occupied with quelling labor disputes in California. Spanish-American War. War was declared with Spain in 1898 following the sinking of the US Maine. The 1st was quickly sent to Florida, where it embarked on ships and was sent to Cuba. While in Cuba, the regiment took part in the storming of the San Juan Heights and the capture of Santiago. Philippine-American War. In 1900, following occupation duty in Cuba, the regiment was preparing for shipment to China to participate in the Boxer Rebellion. Instead, the regiment was deterred to deal with the rebellion on the Philippine Islands, which had also been captured by the United States in the Spanish-American War. The regiment would fight in this guerrilla war in the Philippines from 1900 to 1902 and again from 1906 to 1908. Subsequently, the regiment was redeployed to garrison duties in Oahu, Hawaii. World War I. 1st Infantry Regiment was assigned on the 11th of September 1918 to the 13th Division at Fort Lewis. 13th ID never left Fort Lewis, and demobilized there on the 8th of March 1919. 1st IA was relieved on the 8th of March 1919 from assignment to the 13th Division and resumed separate regiment status. The regiment was again assigned the 27th of July 1921, this time to the 2nd Division, which was headquartered at Fort Sam Houston, and assigned to the U.S. 8th Corps. World War II. The regiment was stationed at Camp Jackson, South Carolina, where it was relieved the 16th of October 1939 from assignment to the 2nd Division and assigned to the 6th Division. The 6th Division arrived at Fort Jackson on the 9th of November 1939, and the 1st IR traveled with the division from that point forward. The 1st IR moved to Fort Benning, Georgia on the 9th of April 1940 to prepare for a series of maneuvers. The 1st IR participated in the Sabine, Louisiana, Texas maneuver on the 9th of May 1940. They then moved to Fort Francis E. Warren, Wyoming on the 3rd of June 1940, and then to Fort Leavenworth, Kansas on the 2nd of April 1941, followed by Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri on the 20th of May 1941. They then moved to Tennessee to participate in maneuvers there. This was followed by a training cycle at the Desert Training Center, while billeted at the Camp Young billeting area from the 10th of December 1942. The regiment then staged at Camp San Luis Obispo, California on the 23rd of March 1943. The regiment departed from the San Francisco, California port of embarkation on the 19th of September 1943, and arrived in Hawaii on the 26th of September 1943. The 1st IR departed Hawaii on the 26th of January 1944, and arrived at Milne Bay, New Guinea on the 7th of February 1944 to participate in the New Guinea campaign. 1st IR departed Milne Bay on the 1st of June 1944, and arrived at Tome on the 14th of June 1944. 1st IR assaulted Sansipur on 30 July 1944, and left New Guinea on 26 December 1944, with the end of the New Guinea campaign taking place on 31 December 1944. The 1st IR won a Presidential Unit Citation for its action at Milne Bay. 1st IR assaulted Lingayen Gulf on the Philippine island of Luzon on 9 January 1945 to participate in the Luzon campaign. 1st IR moved to 6th Army Reserve status from 10 February 1945 to 23 February 1945, when they returned to the Luzon campaign. 1st IR attached to 38th Infantry Division from 28 April 1945 to 1 May 1945, and then was attached to the 11th Corps from 10 June 1945 to 25 June 1945, when they returned to 6th Infantry Division control. The Luzon campaign concluded on 4 July 1945. 1st IR was located at Bagabag, Philippine Islands on 14 August 1945. They then moved to Korea on 24 October 1945, which they occupied through 1949, with garrisons in Taray-gu and Busan. Korean War and Reactivation. On 10 January 1949, 1st IR was inactivated in Korea, and then was reactivated on 4 October 1950 at Fort Ord, California, as a training regiment for units being sent to the fight in Korea. On 3 April 1956, the regiment was relieved from assignment to the 6th Infantry Division, and then was assigned on 15 May 1956 to the United States Military Academy at West Point, New York. On 15 May 1958, the regiment was reorganized under the Combat Arms Regimental System as HHC, 1st Battle Group, 1st Infantry Regiment. In 1960, the 1st Battle Group, 1st Infantry was reorganized under a concept that provided sufficient tactics instructors in the permanent party for continuity, but called for outside augmentation for the summer training program. This left the battle group with a headquarters and training company, service company, airborne detachment, the 2nd Aviation Detachment, the USMA Band, Detachment 1 and 2 United States Army Hospital, and saw the attachment of the 50th Engineer Battalion and the 57th Military Police Company. The old Military Police Detachment personnel formed the nucleus of the newly attached 57th Military Police Company. On 16 May 1961, the mission of providing tactical instruction for the Corps of Cadets along with the personnel involved was transferred to a newly created Office of Military Instruction in the Department of Tactics. All enlisted personnel remained assigned to the battle group. On 1 February 1962, Service Company was eliminated and its personnel absorbed into Headquarters Company. On 1 January 1965, the 1st Battle Group, 1st Infantry was redesigned as the 1st Battalion, 1st Infantry, with the exception of transferring tactical instruction to the Office of Military Instruction in 1961. Its mission was essentially unchanged. The 2nd Battalion was then assigned to Fort Benning, Georgia. Vietnam War. In 1966, the 2nd Battalion was deployed to Vietnam with the 196th Light Infantry Brigade. The following year, the 3rd Battalion was activated at Schofield Barracks, Hawaii, as part of the 11th Infantry Brigade. After the 11th Brigade arrived in Vietnam, both battalions became components of the United Division. These two battalions earned 14 campaign streamers for the regiment during the war in Vietnam. Also in 1967, the 4th, 5th and 6th Battalions were activated on the 24th of November and assigned to the 6th Infantry Division at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. The battalions at Fort Campbell were relieved from assignment to the 6th Infantry Division on the 24th of July 1968, and inactivated on the 21st of July 1969. The 11th Infantry Brigade returned home in 1971, at which time 3rd Battalion was deactivated. The 196th Infantry Brigade was the last combat brigade to leave Vietnam in June 1972. Following its tour of duty in Vietnam, the 2nd Battalion was sent to Fort Lewis, Washington, where it became part of the 9th Infantry Division. In January 1991, the battalion became part of the 199th Infantry Brigade at Fort Polk, Louisiana, where it remained until inactivation in 1994. 1st Infantry soldiers were awarded the Medal of Honor for service in Vietnam. Specialist for Thomas J. McMahon, Company A, 2nd Battalion, the 19th of January 1969, Quang Tinh Province. Specialist for Donald Sloat, 3rd Platoon, Delta Company, 2nd Battalion, the 17th of January 1970, Quang Nam Province. Private 1st Class David F. Winder, HQ and AMP HQ Company, 3rd Battalion, the 13th of May 1970. Specialist for Edward Winfield Kiefer, 3/4th Battalion, 1st Infantry. Reactivation. On the 16th of December 1994, the 2nd Battalion was reactivated at Fort Wainwright as part of the 6th Infantry Division, which was reduced in size and reflagged as the 172nd Infantry Brigade in April 1998. Iraq War. In August 2005, 2nd Battalion was deployed, along with the 172nd Stryker Brigade, to Mosul, Iraq in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. The battalion conducted counter-insurgency operations aimed at securing the city of Mosul from an insurgency headed by the terrorist organization Al-Qaeda in Iraq. After 12 months in Mosul, 2nd Battalion was preparing to return to home station at Fort Wainwright, Alaska, when the deployment was unexpectedly extended by Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld. The 2nd Battalion, along with the entire 172d Infantry Brigade, was subsequently sent to Baghdad, Iraq, to quell rising sectarian violence. The 2nd Battalion returned home in December 2006, after 16 months in Iraq. Notable awards. Commendations. Corporal Stephen Sanford, Company C, 2nd Battalion, was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross for actions in Mosul, Iraq during the unit's deployment. Sergeant 1st Class Peter Lara, Company C, 2nd Battalion, was awarded the Silver Star for actions in Mosul, Iraq during the unit's deployment. War in Afghanistan. On the 17th of February 2009, President Obama ordered 4,000 soldiers of 5th Stryker Brigade Combat Team to Afghanistan, along with 8,000 Marines. Soldiers are being sent because of the worsening situation in the Afghan war. These soldiers will be deployed in the southeast on the Afghan border. July 2010, the brigade is scheduled to return to Joint Base Lewis-McChord. Honors. Campaign Participation Credit War of 1812. Canada. Lundy's Lane, New Orleans. Alabama 1814. Florida 1814. Alabama 1815. Louisiana 1815. Mexican-American War. Monterey. Veracruz. Civil War. Mississippi River. Vicksburg, Missouri 1861. Texas 1861, Mississippi 1862, Indian Wars, Miami, Creeks, Seminoles, Black Hawk, Apaches, Pine Ridge, Texas 1850, Spanish-American War, Santiago, Philippine-American War, Samar 1901, World War II, New Guinea, Luzon, Vietnam, Counteroffensive Phase 2, Counteroffensive Phase 3, Tet Counteroffensive, Counteroffensive Phase 4, Counteroffensive Phase 5, Counteroffensive Phase 6, Tet 69, Counteroffensive, Summer-Fall 1969, Winter-Spring 1970, Sanctuary Counteroffensive, Counteroffensive Phase 7, Consolidation I, Consolidation II, Ceasefire, War on Terrorism, Operation Iraqi Freedom 3, Operation Iraqi Freedom IV, Operation Enduring Freedom, Decorations Presidential Unit Citation for Mafan Bay, Philippine Presidential Unit Citation for the 17th of October 1944 to the 4th of July 1945. The Valorous Unit Award for Kwantan Province for Iraq, the 15th of August 2005 to the 15th of December 2006. Heraldry, coat of arms, blazoned shield, perpendiculars and azure on a bend or a bendlet argent indented of 7 and counter indented of the same fimbriated sable, crest, on a wreath of the colors or and gules the Arabic numeral 1. Azure fimbriated within a garland of laurel vert. Motto, Semper Primus. Symbolism. The regiment was organized in 1791 as the 2nd Infantry. In 1792 it was designated as the Infantry of the 2nd Sublegion. In 1796 it was again designated as the 2nd Infantry. In the consolidation and reorganization of the Army in 1815 it was designated the 1st Infantry. The regiment has a history of fighting in all the wars of the country. Ideological grouping divides its campaigns or wars into 14 groups. These are heraldically represented by the 14 notches on the diagonal band across the shield. The upper part of the shield is red. This was the color of the old 2nd Sublegion. The lower part is blue to the modern infantry color. The crest with the numeral within the laurel wreath of victory and the motto long in use by the regiment are self-explanatory. Background. The coat of arms was originally approved on the 15th of March 1922. It was amended on the 10th of August 1959. On the 8th of November 1968, the coat of arms was amended to correct the wording in the blazon of the shield and motto. It was amended on the 4th of November 1999 to correct the blazon. Distinctive unit insignia. Description: a gold color metal and enamel device 1 and 5/32 inches in height overall, consisting of a shield emblazoned, perpendiculars and azure on a bend or a bendlet argent indented of 7 counter indented of the same fimbriated sable. The shield surmounting a gold color metal oval belt with 3 blue enamel stripes parallel to the edges of the oval and surmounted by a plain gold color metal buckle in base and a gold color metal band on each side of the shield bearing the motto Semper on the dexter band and Primus on the sinister band in red enamel letters. Symbolism. The regiment was organized in 1791 as the 2nd Infantry Regiment. In 1792 it was designated as the Infantry of the 2nd Sublegion. In 1796 it was again designated as the 2nd Infantry. In the consolidation and reorganization of the Army in 1815 it was designated the 1st Infantry. The regiment has a history of fighting in all the wars of the country. Ideological grouping divides its campaigns or wars into 14 groups. These are heraldically represented by the 14 notches on the diagonal band across the shield. The upper part of the shield is red. This was the color of the old 2nd Sublegion. The lower part is blue to the modern infantry color. The motto, long in use by the regiment, is self-explanatory. Background: the distinctive unit insignia was originally approved on 8 September 1923. It was amended on 4 November 1999 to add the symbolism and metric measurements.